Well, we are really happy to have Miss McClellan's school and the classmates here to show them about Native American sugaring, as well as French American, early French American, and then more modern sugaring. So we are coming up to the Native American encampment, and this is Jeremy Turner here. Jeremy's going to tell you a little bit about Native Americans making
you guys did the same thing over
sugar.
there with the mold and stuff. Oh wow!
There's an example.
You got some serious sugar going on over here.
There's an example of what the sugar looks like when it's been poured into the molds and it's had a chance to set up and harden. That obviously we're not making syrup to take because it's hard to transport and to keep in kettles and all that.
Yeah.
So it's better for us to further reduce it down to the sugar. That way we can pack it up into smaller packs and carrying packs, and we can load this on our backs and carry it with our tump lines to our summer villages. So there's an example of sugar. Now throughout the year, these cakes were used to cook with. They were also, if you had more than your family might use, you might trade some of it. But most often they were using it in their individual families or giving it out to other relatives that may not have had such success in making sugar. But you're using it until it's gone for the summer, and then basically probably by that time you're burnt out on eating sugar, and then by the time the sugar season rolls around in the spring, just like with anything else that you haven't ate in a couple months, you're really jonesing for some of that maple sugar. So
now when you say jonesing, are you talking about Jason Jones over here?
I am.
You really want to see Jason? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm talking about Jason Jonesing.
Yeah. And Jason, of course, is from Oklahoma. And so this video is going to the kids in Oklahoma so they can see how sugaring was made by the Native Americans.
What you guys are seeing is really women huddled around this fire, and these kids are all in the mix, but really this fire would be made specifically for working. And so as a man, you're not getting around that fire, you're not getting in those ladies' way. And they're putting the wood on, they're taking care of all that. They're the ones that cut the wood and haul it in, so it's appropriate for them to be the ones to put the wood on there the way that they want it, the way that they are used to cooking with it. And all of this, really, this work in the sugar camps was the women's work. They were the ones going out collecting the sap. They were the ones going out and getting the firewood from all over the woods around us. They were the ones watching the kids in there. Kids, of course, could help collect wood and stuff like that, chores around the camp. But really, it's these women that are really carrying all this load and making sure that they're making this vital food that we're going to need to survive. Winter is the hardest time of year to survive in the woods, and really at this time of the year we've really exhausted our corn, our beans, our squash that we had grown the previous summer. We're subsisting at this time mainly on meat and that the men are hunting, and this sugar that the women are making, and bear grease. We would go out and hunt those bear and take the fat, render it into the grease, save the grease. That's what we have in this green bottle by the fire, is the rendered bear grease. And we would use that grease not only for putting on our bodies, on our faces, especially right now to keep from getting windburnt, chapped skin, put it in our hair to grease our hair, but we're also physically eating that grease. We would actually take some of that grease, put it in a bowl, mix maple sugar into the grease, and then dip our meat that we had cooked or dried into that maple sugar bear grease and eat it. You're getting protein, you're getting sugars, and you're getting fats, which are all vital for survival at this time of the year.
All right, welcome everybody. This is our French sugaring camp. We're portraying 18th century French Canadians that were in America. Up until then, this part of the country was part of France, believe it or not. We've got some stuff covered because the moisture is kind of hard on things today. We start off, we gather the sap out of the trees. We drill holes into the trees with an auger. This will be my tree right here. We'll drill a hole in. Oh, I felt that move. Drill the hole in about, an inch and a quarter or so. Then we would put a spiel underneath it or inside the tree, and then put some type of bucket under it, and the sap gathers into the bucket. And then when that's full, we go through with our equipment, and we take all that sap and we pour it into our water barrels or our extra kettles, and we collect enough of it so that we have at least 40 gallons at a time so that we can boil it down into syrup. We do that by putting it on the fire over here. We've got sugaring chains hanging. Here's a kettle that's got some sap that we've been boiling for a while. This takes a long time, 8 to 12 hours from the sap to make syrup. Then once we've made the syrup, we collect it again in our large kettle until we have several gallons of syrup at one time, and then we put it back into a kettle, several of them at a time, and we boil those until all the moisture is out of the syrup. Once the syrup's ready, there's different stages that we have to be observant for when we keep our eyes on that. Then we take it over into we have wooden trenchers that we make out of logs or large pieces of wood. That we use in the battle too. That's good, that's good. We pour that syrup, once it's ready, into our wooden trenchers. And like I said, we would have big trenchers because we've done several gallons at a time. And then we would get beside it and we would take our stirring paddles or sugaring paddles and run it back and forth, getting some air into it, cooling it down, keep it from sticking on the edges. And we do that until we make something that looks like this. This is what we're looking for. That's gold right there. It's maple sugar, maybe a maple candy. Right there. These are still warm, believe it or not. We just made them. Okay? So we're stirring these from that liquid stage that looks like this to a powdery sugar. When I hold out your hands, you'll get a sample. Sorry, class, you guys can't have a sample. Maybe we can send some.
There you go.
All right. Just like that. We scrape it all off the edge. And then once it's in this stage, we can put it in molds, just like this. Now, these are decorated. There's designs that we've carved in them because we like pretty things as well. 4 of these blocks equal a pound of sugar. Okay. Now what are we going to do with this sugar when it's in this stage? We're just going to leave it setting out? No. We would store it in our makooks, which are bark containers. You would use whatever kind of bark you have in your environment and to make things with. Sometimes it's birch bark. Sometimes it's elm bark, which grows around here, which is what we would be using a lot of.
Is this something that the early pioneers would take out west when traveling?
You could purchase it in bulk and take it with you, but unfortunately, west of the Mississippi, it's kind of harder to produce it because there's not a lot of maple trees west of the Mississippi River. You'll probably see some out there now because they're used as decorations in your front yards and stuff like that, but now not so much.
So the sugar would basically come from the Northeast.
Yes.
In the United States.
Yes, the northeastern part of the United States, correct. So we store that in here. We've got blocks and we've got powder. This is a waterproof container, believe it or not. The birch bark will keep the moisture out. At our home, in our cabin back in the settlements, this sets up in our chest, and that's what our sugar is for the year. We just get what we need. Another way that you can store it is in these birch bark cones. These were like a treat. If you did really well, you got all your chores done at the end of the day or whatever, your parents or whoever you were working with would give you one of these as payment or as a special treat. All you have to do is just pull the bark off of it and then you have sugar. Believe it or not, these were made our first year that we came out here and was doing sugar. So 10 years at least. So this is 10 years old. It's still as edible as that fresh stuff that we gave as a sample.
Now, why didn't they just make maple syrup and keep the maple syrup, and why did they turn it into sugar?
We didn't have Tupperware. We didn't have plastics and stuff. The most waterproof item that we have was this piece of pottery. Kind of sturdy. Be pretty sturdy, but accidents happen. This is going to crack eventually. But in the summertime, this fresh syrup, unless it's sealed very, very tight, is going to mold. It will go sour. You can have maple vinegar, which is not bad, but after a while it gets kind of really gross.
This is a 1956 Vermont evaporator. And so wood is used to fire the evaporator. Kim, could you open the door so the kids can see? So this is where the arch is. This is where we'll throw some wood in. Maybe, Kim, if you can throw a stick in there, that'd be awesome so the kids can see that. This is the source of heat to reduce the sap. Perfect. Very, very hot. So it's all about reduction. So the sap comes in from the tank right up here. There's a tank right up there, and then it comes through this black line right here, and it goes into the pan. It's kind of tough to see the pan with all the steam, but it goes into this pan, and then it's reduced. It takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. So the sap is here boiling and evaporating, and it goes through this pan, and as it travels from this large pan to this smaller pan to the smallest of pans, the sugar levels increase. And so when it comes in that pipe, it's about 2% sugar. At the end, where we pull the syrup off from this spigot right here, it's 67% sugar, which is then pure maple syrup. So that's how it's made from a kind of a modern standpoint.